Hey, so I made a Facebook post the other day saying that it doesn't make sense to me how people can say they don't have time for political correctness, because that just sounds like I don't have time to think about what I'm saying, and how that's just a really strange political strategy. And I didn't expect it to be controversial, and for the most part people were agreeing with me, but not everybody. One person in particular accused me of dealing with class warfare and ignoring commonly used words for things that already exist, and asked me what makes these people so special that they get to come up with these words that there are way too many of to learn and are just perverting the language to their own ends. So let's break those down one by one, shall we? First, it's really telling that this person wanted to talk about these terms removed from any discussion of oppression that minorities and women face, because when you remove the context of oppression, yeah, it does sound really strange to have these different terms, because what they're reacting to is oppression. But explaining the axes of oppression is just going to take way too long for this one video, so we're just gonna move on and assume that we all believe that people are treated differently when they're different. And it's why I'm not entirely on board with this argument that there are just some commonly understood words for these things and we should use the words that everybody else uses, because part of the common understanding of these words is a value judgment placed on these people. So hi, I'm white. No, it's quite a shock. You can pause this video right now if you need to take a moment to let that set in. I was also raised in very white communities, which I know is so statistically rare for white people to be around other white people. And I was raised learning a lot of these words and absorbing their connotations unconsciously, but I still have to admit that that had an effect on me. And even if I didn't actively hate these other groups of people, I was still learning not to like them or respect them. Sure, I was taught that it was bad to be racist and to respect Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, but I was also still quietly taught to hate rap music, and that sagging my pants is bad, and that I shouldn't wear blue or red because those are gang colors, and all of this stuff does seep into your psyche, and you start to learn that all of these signs of blackness or womanhood or any other group that you can think of are bad things. And everyone just kind of nods silently in agreement when you use these words like thug or welfare queen, and people will deny that these are racially coded, even though they're only ever used to describe black people, and not only that, but black people that we don't like. So when you say that a word is purely descriptive and that it's not racially coded at all, you're literally just denying the truth. So when a person from those groups gives you a new word that they prefer that doesn't have those connotations, it's just a sign of good faith and respect to use it. And by that same token, continuing in the face of that request to use the other word is not only invalidating and disrespectful, it's implying, now that you know this new word, that you prefer the status quo where these oppressive structures exist. And I do understand that there are a whole bunch of words that you have to learn, but let me take you back a few centuries to this man called Carl Linnaeus, who developed the system of taxonomy that we still use today. He decided that in order to categorize all living things on Earth, we needed to have 3 kingdoms: animal, vegetable, and mineral. Over time, though, scientists discovered that there were some things that weren't animals or vegetables, but were still alive, and they had to create their own categories for them. We now have 6 kingdoms in our system of taxonomy, not to mention all of the new species that we discover that get their own branch of that tree. And when we discover a new species, we don't get these opinion pieces about how there are already too many species and we need to try to fit this into one that already exists. It can't fit into another species category because it's different. These words to describe gender and sexuality and race are being created by scholars to try to describe specific identities that people have and how these identities differ from other ones. And sometimes definitions change with new developments, just like Pluto is no longer considered a planet because it doesn't exactly fit into that category the way that scientists have decided. Bisexuality isn't necessarily attraction to only cis men and only cis women, because gender is a spectrum. Bisexuality is attraction to 2 or more genders. And even if you don't like the grammatical relationship between the prefix and that definition, It's not your decision to make because it's this person's way of describing themselves to you. You should take the way someone describes themselves at face value and respect that. Jenny is a Beatles fan. Marcia is an athlete. Kelly is demisexual. It shouldn't be hard. This idea that we have to maintain the purity of the language over everything else doesn't really hold water in my book. Languages evolve. You don't get the mangled mess of the English language without things changing over time. And this person that I was talking to said that we're perverting the language to reach our own ends, and I just want to know, what bad ends are we reaching? We're trying to get a language that respects people for who they are. I'm personally not very interested in maintaining the purity of a language that oppresses people. These identities that people are trying to explain to you are not things that they just flippantly decide to be one day and then decide the next day that they're not. This is about the very core of their being and trying to create a language that expresses that to you. So it's pretty important in all of these situations for you to respect people for who they are. Why is that such a controversial thing to say? I don't know, but the fact of the matter is that I know that it's controversial and I know that you guys have opinions about it. So please do leave them in the comments. Please try to keep it civil. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and I will see you all next week.